All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brandon. I'm the head of North American market development here at Qomon. Joining me today is Helen, our head. One of our head customer success managers here. And we're here to talk about key actions to growing and sustaining your community impact. So, how do you grow your supporter base? How do you keep your supporters engaged, and then how do you mobilize them and keep them mobilized? If you have any questions at any time during this presentation, feel free to ask. We have a question section there, and we'd be happy to answer them. All right, so let's get into this. So first things first, uh, who are we? Who is Qomon? That's where we're going to start. We're going to then go into the four pillars of the Qomon Method, and then how the method that we've developed is at the heart of Qomon in everything we do, and then we'll end things off today with a quick question and answer. So about us at Qomon. This is us. We are Qomon. We operate in over 50 different countries. We have over 1,000 different campaigns we're involved with, whether they're political, nonprofit, NGO. We are involved with the smallest of small campaigns with like just a couple people on it. We do big national campaigns, big national movements, international movements, you name it. We scale to whatever size you want. All right. So, who are we? Qomon. What do we do behind the scenes? We equip several hundred organizations, NGOs, movements, elected officials, you name it, with software and mobilization applications to enable them to mobilize, take action in the field, as well as online, engage their communities, contacts, and in just a few clicks, analyze that data. We are committed to data privacy. It is at the heart of our business. We are very serious about making sure your data is protected, that you're not just your data, but your constituents' data and your volunteers' data, your team's data. It's all protected, all private. Sorry, just 1 second here. And we really want to help your organization go from thinking about mobilizing and thinking about how to mobilizing to being mobilized. We have a go-to philosophy, a take action philosophy, less time kind of analyzing and thinking and more time actually doing. And again, like going into that like data privacy aspect. All right. So, what is the Qomon Method and why the Qomon Method? The Qomon Method is something we've developed over time through the expertise within our teams, through expertise we've collected with our clients, with our partners, and we've developed this method that is meant to be a reciprocal feeding loop. Basically, you could bring people in at any time, and it's how to keep them engaged and how to use different tools to keep them mobilized. So making sure your supporters stay supporters, that they don't get apathetic, that your new supporters get moved along, so that the first time you contacted someone is soon will become a hardened activist supporter. So the Qomon Method. There are four pillars to the Qomon Method. And we'll go through those four real quick. So, starting with the first one, everything starts with a conversation. Everything, in fact, does start with a conversation, whether it's, communicate, educate, relationships or building a support team or anything. It always starts with the conversation. Madame Sevigny said, "An hour of conversation is worth more than 50 letters." It's proven that it's the best way to connect with people through conversation. There was a study done by Garber and Green back in 2000. It's a groundbreaking study that a lot of campaigns still hold dear and true. The canvassing door to door, face to face conversations are more likely to mobilize your voters, mobilize your supporters. They're more likely to on election day go out and vote. This has been replicated through several studies. The other great thing about canvassing door to door and having these conversations is you're breaking yourself out of the social media digital silo. You're talking to real people with real lives, with telling you what they really feel. You're not being fed something through an algorithm, through Facebook or other social media, telling you what you want to hear. So you are being told uh, uh, exactly what these people are feeling. Sorry. All right. So Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. In the same vein, you miss 100% of supporters you don't talk to. It always starts with a conversation. It's going to be a repeating theme here for the first pillar. Whether it's asking strangers at the metro stop to sign your petition, knocking on doors in your neighborhood to support your cause, calling people to invite them to an event you created, just start talking to people. Nothing should be done in isolation as well. Like, you need to maximize the number of people you talk to and the number of people you reach. And so it should be done in conjunction with the other channels you have available, whether it's phone calling, whether it's online social media, whether it's email campaigns. Just use as many different channels as possible in conjunction with your canvassing to have as many conversations as possible. And the other thing, and I find this very important, every conversation is a data point. All your data points should be tracked. Did you have a great conversation at an event? Great. Get that person's contact information, track their consent, and add them to your database, because when time comes to mobilize them, without that contact information, without that, all that being tracked, you're not able to mobilize them when it matters. Um, yeah, and you also want to keep them engaged. It's not just a matter of having a initial conversation and then letting them go. It's about continuously engaging them and communicating with them, which is what our second pillar is going to go into. Now, before we go into the second pillar, I really want to talk about a quick case study here, one that I personally know, because when I on my last campaign, it's something that I saw. So we were outdoor knocking, and we noticed that this specific area had a lot of dogs. So one of our candidates decided to ask someone that they're door knocking, "Oh, yeah, do you have a dog?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, can you tell me a little bit about owning a dog here?" And my candidate was running for city council, and the person said, "Well, it's a great neighborhood and everything, and people are friendly. The people love the dogs, but there's no dog parks." And we never would have known that if we just continued to engage through social media, if we just continued to do email blasts or voice blasts over the phone. It wasn't until we actually had this call, or even just phone calling. It wasn't until we got in onto the ground into this neighborhood and actually talked to these people and visually saw like this, that, oh, there's a need for a dog park here. So what did the counselor do once they got elected? Was they went out and created a dog park in this area. And now that area that has probably 40-50% of the residents with dogs are becoming ardent supporters of his, and they're now contacting him on how to help him on his next campaign. And now you've taken like strangers that, again, started with a conversation, and now they're becoming your ardent supporters, your activist supporters that we also desperately dearly need. And that takes us into the next pillar, and I'll let Helen take it from here. And actually, I forgot to let her introduce herself.
No worries. Hi, everyone. I'm Helen. Thanks for being here. So I won't take too much of your time. So we'll jump into pillar number 2. So pillar number 2 is all about action and engagement paths. So this pillar really focuses on the networks that you guys already have and how to engage with them to promote their sort of next level, right? These people that need to evolve within your cause, so to speak. So it's to tell you guys, to stop interacting with your supporters, members, activists, donors, sympathizers together as one group, and really communicate, and really to tell you that your communication needs need to be targeted, and your mass newsletters are not enough, right, for all of these commitment levels. each of these groups need to have a tailored approach. Here we have these 3 or 4 circles of engagement and commitment, and the way you speak and communicate with them also need to be different. So tailoring communication to your supporters versus sympathizers, for example, is essential for effective engagement. Your supporters seek reinforcement and more detailed information, warranting direct appeals and specific calls to action, whereas your sympathizers probably require a more gradual persuasion, focusing maybe a little bit more on an emotional connection and gradual exposure, to your cause's nuances. In adapting communication to these distinct groups fosters deeper commitment and wider understanding of your cause for everyone. And the goal here is right to grow each circle of engagement by doing just that, adapting, creating, and tailoring your approach by level of base, by for your base level there. And so that comes with, let me just change slides here, thinking about action and commitment pathways for each of these groups. What sorts of information and participation are you going to have for each of these groups to represent or participate in? Give them agency and support it so that they can reach out to their own networks to help you grow. And this is what we call the snowflake model, right? Relying on friends and neighbors and colleagues, volunteers, etc., for them to be leaders of their own teams and groups. And what's so great about the snowflake model is that it empowers individuals, fosters inclusivity, and adapts to dynamic contexts, making it ideal for creating a decentralized movement. It's also flexible in structure, and it helps sustain engagement, driving change and impact through that shared leadership and innovation there. It's a great way to show trust in your volunteers, right? And trusting your volunteers means delegating certain responsibilities to them in your organization. Their ability to plan ahead is linked to their potential to develop within your community, within local communities, within neighborhoods. And by giving these autonomy to these local communities, you enable your movement to reach a greater number of people by adapting to the realities of them, of what's happening on the ground. And what's more is that these local communities will make it easier to get involved, not only by integrating new members more easily, but also by enabling everyone to get involved simply, by signing a petition, by filling out some survey questions, whatever else, being part of a meeting, passing on a message, whatever it may be. So the point here is to really mobilize your activist base, right? Push it out to your activists will go and find more supporters, your supporters will go and find more sympathizers, and those sympathizers will go ahead and find more citizens, more people of the general public, right, to then become sympathizers themselves. And over time, those voters will become supporters, and those supporters will become members, and those members will become activists, etc. Right? But how can we actually do this? One is create those engagement paths and nurture them. And you guys get to define what that is. Do you do this best through communication, through emailing, through events, whatever it is, define them and nurture them, use them, and approach each of your circles differently. So that goes into my next point, is break down your base by commitment levels. So create these sort of universes, right? You have your general public or your weak supporter or your strong supporter, your volunteers, and interact with them differently. That's very important, right? Suggest to them that the previous universe, to reach out to people of other universes to become more committed into theirs. And give everyone a clear role and tools to be independent. So this ties back into that snowflake model and trusting your volunteers or other individuals to help carry your message, right? Empower them to do that, have them be leaders of their own groups, and create those semi-autonomous local groups that will be able to carry out their own actions, petitions, and events. It ends up being loads more relevant to people in the community, right? If you're a national campaign or you're a national organization running, a particular movement or a campaign, it becomes much more relevant. People can relate to your cause or to your project much more when things are localized, when the teams are localized, when the issues are localized, right? it becomes much more powerful that way. And then lastly here is to never stop communicating, right? Keep pushing those to get involved, um, giving them updates, encouraging to do more, and giving them those tools to really grow and help you spread your message. And you can do that with the help of information that you guys have, your contact database, so data that you already have, but also through data that you may get from other online sources, open source data, all of that, both of which Brandon is going to hop into this in our next pillar here.
All right. So the next pillar, and I agree, they're all very important pillars, is data versus perception. Um, so what does that mean? De Gaulle said, "There is no success without truth." When you enter a campaign, going into a campaign, you often have, whether it's political or otherwise, you often have ideas of what areas the city or the region support you, what areas don't support you, what demographics might support you, which might not. Some of that might be from historic, some of that might be from personal anecdote, but your perception might be wrong. But there's one good way to actually analyze the data and to affirm either your perception or to open yourself up to the truth of what it really is. Based on our experience in the sector, that of our users, and using use case studies, we know those campaigns that carry out a detailed analysis of the territory of their area and target audiences have created deeper and more meaningful impacts. As someone who has been a consultant to political campaigns for over 15 years, I can personally tell you how important it is for a campaign to know the lay of the land and not only where to begin, but have an idea of the task ahead, what your campaign is going to look like. There's essentially two types of analysis in this respect. There's upstream analysis and downstream analysis. Upstream analysis is looking at the geographic areas you have to cover. It's the demographics, it's the past poll electoral results, and it's the socioeconomic data as well. Downstream analysis is evaluating the data you are receiving as your team is canvassing, as you're contacting more people, seeing how your surveys are being answered, and who is supporting you and who isn't. Both of these analyses is important to conduct together in conjunction once you begin canvassing, finding out your strengths and weaknesses and seeing where there might be a similar area of strength by matching and cross-analyzing similarities amongst various factors. This helps you create actions that have a greater impact. It helps your, as we'll see in the next slide, have more meaningful conversations on the doorstep. So you want to create and set your targets early, but you want to adjust them as you receive the data. This is the essence of a data-driven campaign. Being agile and adaptable. This next point, it drives me nuts how often it happens on campaigns or in organizations in general. Don't gatekeep data. Democratize the data. Tell your volunteers what you are targeting and why. One, it will make them feel they're part of the team, a trusted member of the team, because they're getting insider information. It'll empower them. And two, it'll give them the context as to why they're talking to the people they're talking to and who they're actually talking to. So it gives them more meaning behind the work that they're doing. And that in turn will get you better data in return because they're going to be more likely to correctly enter the data. Listen to the data that's coming back from them. If your data is challenging your preconceived notions or early perceptions, follow the data, change your notions, change your perception. Be that data driven campaign that we always hear about. Like we always hear about, be a data driven campaign, but you don't often follow those steps. And that drives into the next point, which is you should never stop your actions. You should never stop moving. And that is actually our fourth pillar, which Helen will take us through.
Perfect, thank you. So so here is our fourth pillar here, and we're starting this slide off with a quote by Francois Mitterrand. Freedom and democracy require constant effort. It is impossible for those who love it to fall asleep. Right. So what do we mean by action should never stop? It's exactly what it sounds like. We tend to focus on moments within our cause or moments in our campaign or our project, and these snapshots of victory or loss or an obstacle, and we tend to forget that it's better if we just never stop. If it's no longer a movement, that we turn these moments into a movement that lives forever, thanks to its community, right? Thanks to your supporters, thanks to your constituency, etc. The relationships that you build over time, these are relationships, excuse me, that you build over time and through repetition, and you have to nurture your supporters, and constantly reassure them in order to maintain the trust that they have placed in you and strengthen it, so that when you come and run for election tomorrow or the next year, you don't have to backpedal and be like, okay, all that effort that I just did last year, I now have to do again this year. No, you can keep that trust, keep it going throughout your time to show that you are still engaged, right? So we have a push a dynamic vision of democracy in action. Voting is not the end, it's the beginning, and it's exactly that. Don't stop. Building that trust pushes people to participate, to engage, to vote, to get others to vote. And they need this trust to do those things. And repetition and showing up and constant contact gives that to them. Always listen, right, to your audience. The issues may change if you don't listen. I mean, the example, the anecdote that Brandon brought up was great about, just going out, speaking to someone, asking them, what's missing, what's going on. And they found out about a dog park, right? And you can't, let alone anticipate what these are. You need to go out and continue to consult the public, your constituency, your community, right? If you say that a conversation is the foundation of democracy, right? That's exactly where this effort is usually forgotten in. Keep talking, keep receiving that information from the field, which gives you more to plan on later on, more data, right? To create those data-driven decisions as well. So you're constantly updated, and you'll see that each of these pillars fill into each other. But one of the biggest things about this pillar, excuse me, is to really never stop. As the saying goes, out of sight, out of mind. If you don't take the time, and trouble and effort, whatever else, to keep talking to your community, you can't blame them for dropping out and becoming disengaged later on. A contact database, right, that you've nurtured and pampered outside of peak times is a base that you don't have to win back in the future. It brings loyalty, right, to your base and a community around your ideas. And I get it. There are so many reasons, right, not to do anything. So many reasons to do nothing, right? Your teams are too small. You might not have enough volunteers. I've got some examples here. No budget. Nobody's doing it. Door to door doesn't work in my area. It's too difficult. Nobody uses digital tools, whatever it is. But I'm here to tell you that, yes, there are steps that you guys can take right now that won't cost you much, right? For you guys to continue your action, right? To never stop. One of them, send targeted emails about specific interests and key points, right? Meaning emails that are relevant to those people, right? If somebody speaks to you, says they're interested in the environment, don't send them, your platform or your issues idea on security, right? Keep it relevant for these individuals. Continue to carry out your door-to-door campaigns. Continue to have those conversations in your communities, even if you win, even if you lose. Even if your movement or whatever else is going through a change, whatever it is, stay engaged so that you're updated, so that when re-elections comes time, you don't have to pedal again. You don't have to do the work you've already done all over again, right? Work smart, not hard. Record interactions with the people you meet. So Brandon spoke about this as well. So anytime you meet with someone, take it down, make a note of it. You have digital tools that are available to you that you can, grab your phone or your computer, and write that person's name down. What was their issue? What did they want to talk to you about? So that when you do speak to them again, they'll see that, you actually took an interest in their voice, and will likely, of course, be a supporter there. And then, of course, one of the things that also help in this is creating petitions, creating sort of these issue areas for your community to quickly become a part of. A petition is a great way for people to become engaged and sign. And the point of it isn't, necessarily to win a petition, but really for people to say, okay, hold on, X person is working on this in my community. I'm interested in this. I support this. And it gives you that person's contact information to follow up with, to speak to them, to see what their issues are, maybe ideas that they have, but also to support them, to rally them later on for your support base. And then, of course, creating public events and meetings, right, to encourage participation and all of that. And this is something that we saw done beautifully. So we have a case study here from the USR. So this is a political party in Romania. They've been using Qomon for a little while now, and right, this party is up and coming, right? They're very new, and they started from scratch. Even though they did have a voter file available to them if they needed, they really decided, hold on, I don't want to contact these people. I have their information, but they didn't necessarily say that USR can contact them or anything. And they really wanted to be, okay, these people that I speak to, I want their explicit permission to contact them from us, like, right, about USR specific actions. So, and from scratch, they've been able to get 80 members of parliament elected. They've launched over 50 petitions, right, collecting all of that support, have launched over 600 actions, and have added over 90,000 new contacts. And what's great about them is that they really have touched on all of these petitions, right? These guys are new. They did start from a conversation. They did the dirty work, knocking on doors, talking to people face to face, friends, whatever it started off as first. And then they also went on to create those engagement paths. Okay, so people who are supporters, how do I empower them to also bring other supporters on board? To also then using data to make those informed decisions. Okay, where is my time going to be worthwhile? Where do I send my volunteers now, right? Where they're going to have the highest likelihood of finding supporters, but also have a way more pleasant experience so that they also feel happy and they're also more motivated to knock on more doors. And then there's sort of continued campaigning as well, right? These guys have been campaigning for a couple of years now, and their election isn't for another couple, right? These guys are dedicated, and I'm sure after the big elections coming up, they're also going to continue, right? These guys really embody this notion of forever campaigning, never stopping, continue reaching out to the public, really finding out what are the core issues in my area, in these areas, and astonishing, fantastic work in localizing, right, their petitions, their teams, having this bottom up local approach, grassroots, for their movement, for their party. And next year, so just to sort of recap there, all of our 4 pillars are that use case just really touched upon. Number 1, it all starts with a conversation, getting started and remembering to use all of your channels, thinking in terms of actions and commitments, creating these universes to communicate, right, by universe. Empower those to lead themselves by trusting them and providing resources for them to act, right? Giving your volunteers the chance to be a leader of their own groups. Your data versus perception, number 3. So understanding your base, your activist base, and create better quality interactions and data-driven decisions, and evaluating the real impact of your actions as well. And then number 4, the action should never stop. Relationships are built over time and through repetition and maintaining links and understanding citizens' realities. And as I said before, as USR sort of demonstrated so beautifully, it's the idea that all of these pillars create this sort of loop, right, where you start that conversation in that chat, you create those pathways for people to become more supporters or for activists to become more activists, to then bring in that data, right, that you collect from the field, whatever else, to make those better data-driven decisions, to then continue canvassing, to then do it all over again. And the more information, the more people, the more engagement that you guys have coming in from any of these pillars really fuels that next step, right? It all fuels together in this sort of flywheel, this loop, to strengthen your impact within your movement. And so here, what we've sort of created here are just some key actions, right, that you can use to get started. We've put this here on a nice visual bubble view here. But if you guys would like a nice checklist we've actually created, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll email that over. And you have our emails right in the chat there, but I'll also add it in just in case. But yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you guys are interested in getting that sort of that checklist of how to start, right? And then next here is an example. So here's a sort of example of a roadmap of what this could look like for you guys, for your movement, for your campaign, starting off with a territory analysis, and maybe starting off by launching a petition, getting a feel for what issues people are most interested in. And a petition is a great way to do that. And then working on your communication. So this is just an example, right? That will absolutely be different, right? Depending on what your starting point is, right? But just to give you guys an idea of what it could be. And all of that to say that, we have this Qomon method, but this method has been around for ages, right? So here we have a nice quote from Abraham Lincoln: make a perfect list of all voters in their respective districts, and to ascertain with certainty for whom they will vote, it will be the duty of said subcommittee to keep a constant watch on the doubtful voters, and from time to time have them talked to by those who in whom they feel most confidence, have most confidence, and also to place in their hands such documents as will enlighten and influence them, right? So using those networks, using those personal relationships that people already have, right, in their own networks to carry out a message, a more impactful message, to grow your support base there, right? So we've got this Qomon method, but really it's been along for a long time. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Brandon, who's going to talk about, right, how this Qomon method is at the heart, right, of Qomon.
Thank you, Helen. So the Qomon method is built into the way we do things here, the way we develop our tools. It's a virtuous and repeatable cycle here. The more you talk to your audience, the more you get to know them, the better you understand your audience. You build a more structured base, guaranteeing effectiveness of your actions, and by replicating this over and over, through analysis and kind of like that, analyzing your data as it's coming on in, and that is how our tools. So if you go through the Qomon platform, that is exactly what you'll get. We have our platform is made up of three essential features, three families of features. At the heart of it is our CRM, where everything is stored. So that is kind of where you find out where all your voters are. You track all that information, all your online forms, everything. So that's where one of the places you could do your analysis. That's where you do your downstream analysis. We have our data and mapping features, kind of our upstream analysis, like what's the socioeconomic of this area, who won here last, what does this area look like, let's see where the districts are, where's our supporters on the districts. And then we have our actual mobilization tool, our mobilization app, our digital headquarters that we like to say for our volunteers. And it's probably one of the best, most versatile tools I've used on the market. It's what we use for door-to-door canvassing, for mailing, letter dropping, for phone calling. We also have tools like our petitions and our online forms and custom forms and things like that really allow you to build the system the way you want it. And using those features, they just naturally, you go from, okay, so this is what my canvassing surveys have come back and said. Let's map it out here. Okay, so on the map here, it looks like it's here, here, and here. Let's find similar areas. Okay, that's our similar area there. Let's send that to our canvassers. They go mobilize on the doorsteps. That data comes back, gets stored in the CRM. You take a look at that, you look on the map. Okay, you send out next, and you're in an infinite loop then. And that is essentially the Qomon method and how it is in the DNA of Qomon. I will open the floor up now to any questions or comments, and yeah.
Um,
Includes our webinar here. So for those of you that are not familiar with the Qomon platform, we are an innovative platform that maximizes your impact with every action that you take. We take a truly mixed approach of online and in the field, and we use very easy to use and constantly evolving. We pride ourselves in our innovation tools that we equip our clients with. Our tools are super responsive, super easy to use, and we back that up with our responsive real people. You very rarely will talk to a bot to help you along the way. Um, if you're based in Europe, we are fully GDPR compliant. Europe is where we got our legs. So it is, again, built into our DNA. Everything that we do it with the GDPR in mind. And it's a software for pretty much anyone. It's for elected officials, it's for nonprofits, it's for NGOs, it's for movements. It's used globally in over 50 different countries, like I mentioned earlier. And it is scalable to a small team, to national campaigns, and it is rather affordable. It starts as little as $39 a month, and it is scalable to the size of your organization. So if your organization wants to start small and grow, this is great. If your organization is already large, we could come in and fit and adapt to what you have already set up. If you want to contact us, there's a few people here you could contact. You have the emails there. You could contact me directly at brandon@qomon.com if you have any questions regarding anything in North America. If you have any questions for anything in Europe, Guillaume is probably your best bet, gd@qomon.com. We have our phone numbers there as well. And if you want to check us out online, qomon.com, just qomon.com. It'll take you to our website and you can find out even more information there. Helen, it's been a pleasure presenting with you.
The pleasure was mine. Thanks, Brandon, and thanks everyone for joining. It's been a pleasure taking you guys through our pillars. We hope you guys liked it. Feel free to answer our polls there, our questions there, and interact with us. That'd be great. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so